But what did your training consist of with Scott Casey and Ivan
Yeah,
Putski? Because Putski was more of a showman. He was a strong man.
I could tell you. As far as let me tell you what happened to Scott first. When he left and went to Texas, Ivan Putski opened a wrestling school, man, and it was like one of the most high-profile wrestling schools you would ever, want to walk into at that time, man. I mean, it was plush. It was in the, the southwest side of town. I mean, we had, one wrestling ring on one side. On the other side, we had full wrestling mats. We had televisions and video cameras, watching us and stuff like that. Ivan Putski had a slipped on a banana peel, man, and got some sponsors, man, and they were all behind this thing. And he hired Scott, man, and paid Scott some good money to come up and help him, get the training done. And that's how I got hooked up with Scott. Scott, as far as what consisted of training, it was I got lucky. Ivan Putski, he was a gimmick guy. He really wasn't a wrestler. He never went out and actually had a wrestling match. I don't think in his whole career. He's been in a lot of matches, but as far as the wrestling go, that's another story. So we didn't do a lot of burpees, a lot of Hindu squats and stuff like that. But we did learn psychology from Scott Casey, and Scott Casey taught me, like I say, the small little bitty things such as taking a headbutt in the turnbuckle. You know what I mean? How to sell, a tackle properly. You know what I mean? How to, create some space and little bitty stuff like that. So the school only lasted about 6 months, and it was closed down because of all the money that he was spending bringing talent in, stuff like that. But I got lucky. I was in on the first crop.
How long did it take you to really understand the art of selling? Because when I got into business, man, at first for those first 2 months, PY, Chu High, all of the big, bad, tough ass heels were coming down into Dallas. And for the first 2 months, dude, I got my ass whipped with kendo sticks, weightlifting belts. I was this white meat baby face with long blonde hair because I just got finished playing football at North Texas State University. So they knew that I was a student of Chris Adams. So I wasn't having matches. I was just a whipping boy. And they was going out there and beating the flying fuck out of me. And then finally, I started getting in the ring, and shit, you can go back and watch one of my matches with the Undertaker, and I guess he was working as the Punisher back in the day, and I wasn't worth the flying fuck. And because I came out of a football background, I kind of considered myself, not a tough guy as far as walking around and fighting people on the streets, but I was a pretty big motherfucker. So I'm thinking, all of a sudden, when I'm out there working with superstar Bill Dundee, who was one of my favorites and taught me a shitload about the business and psychology and really took care of me. Holy shit, man. Bill was 5'7", about 200 pounds. And Bill never worked like a small guy. And, all of a sudden, I'm thinking, man, I got to sell for this guy. And it was my conversation with Tojo Yamamoto. Did you ever know Tojo?
No, I never met Tojo.
Well, man, one time, he was telling me, trying to smarten me up about selling, so I could get some sympathy. Because, dude, if you and me are working, as we have many times, if I'm doing something to you and you ain't selling it, and you're doing something to me and I ain't selling it, nothing means shit because nothing hurts.
Exactly.
So Tojo said, grab my ear. And I grabbed his earlobe. And, man, he cringed, Booger, like I just ripped his ear off. And he looks at me and he goes, that's sell. And that's when the light bulb went off in my head. How long did it take you to put the nuances and the art and the performance all into it? Because I know you was always a good athlete.
I took the wrestling really, really quick, man. For some reason, it seemed like it was something I was meant to do. It was like deja vu, But selling for me, I talk to my students about it all the time. It's acting and reacting. That's pretty much all it is, And I got into a lot of fights when I was a kid, man. I used to kick a lot of ass, man, and beat up a lot of guys around the neighborhood. But I remember this one kid down the street, man, and he called me out to a fight. And the fight was actually in my yard, and I remember what that ass kicking feel like, man, because that guy beat me up so bad, man. He beat me up so bad. But then on top of that, I got a chance to sit under the learning tree, guys like Manny Fernandez, guys like, John Mantell, guys like Black Bart, John Tatum, Maniac Mike Davis, those names, man, those guys were stars, man, in Dallas, and they were true bona fide wrestlers. When I see Stone Cold Steve Austin, I see gorgeous Gary Young running around, in my head every single time, because those guys, they were truly, truly great, athletes and great stars and entertainers down there in Dallas. And I learned so much, man, riding, and actually driving, and Black Bart sitting in the back seat, telling me which way to go, man. So that's how I learned, dog.
Dude, I remember sitting around some of the hotel rooms because I was traveling for a brief period of time with Black Bart and a little bit of Nikita Koloff. And Black Bart, he'd always had his glasses, and he'd push his glasses up, and he'd be spitting in his little spit cup and dropping knowledge. And, to your point, man, I was riding up and down the road with Skandar Akbar and Bronco Lubitsch.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no ride. I didn't have no friends. I wasn't over, so I was riding with them. They took me under their wings, and then I hooked up with gorgeous Gary Young, and we was riding down the road in his 280ZX, and I'm asking him questions the whole time. Billy Joe Travis, Jimmy Jack Funk, Maniac Matt Bourne. Yeah. A lot of those guys, I mean, those are ace workers. Never got really big runs, but outstanding teachers and outstanding workers in their own right.
Hall of Fame talent right there you just named. I mean, on both sides, all those guys, Hall of Fame talent, man. And that's what, we talk about, the young guys now. That's out there doing their thing. Those guys, it's a lot of great talent, on the roster today. These young guys, they can do things, unimaginable to guys like us when we were doing it. But they didn't get a chance to actually learn, what it was like to, peek through the curtain and watch the crowd reactions when certain guys are out there, taking it to another level, and then take that knowledge yourself and put it in your playbook and in your black bag and say, man, I'm going to use this somewhere down the line. They didn't get a chance to get that worldly experience, and I think that's the difference between us and them, as far as, going out and performing.